Yes, Mr. Speaker, it does send a chill of fear through constituents in my riding. In Oshawa, it was announced we're losing a third line. We're losing that third shift. Jobs are already being lost because of sales and sales going down. It's really a matter of choice. It comes back to choice all of the time. As I said before, Mr. Speaker, targets are fine. We all want a cleaner environment and lower emissions. We want to reach goals and targets. Mandates are unacceptable.
Statements by members, déclaration de députés. The honourable member for Edmonton Strathcona.
Mr. Speaker, we are at a critical time in our nation's history. We know that Canada can no longer rely on the U.S. for our primary strategic trade and security needs. We must now forge a different and a strategic path to ensure that our security, our peace, and our sovereignty are protected. But right now, in Alberta, separatist groups are preparing a referendum to separate from Canada, thanks to Danielle Smith. At the very moment that we must come together for our country and for our future, Conservatives in my province are working to divide us. They are feeding Trump's 51st state hallucinations. And while the Prime Minister is cozying up to human rights abusers and tyrants, he is rejecting meaningful consultation with workers, environment groups, and with Indigenous nations. Our goal, our path to a stronger economy and a better future cannot bypass human rights in Canada or abroad. We must protect our democracy. We must protect human rights. Mr. Speaker, that is who we are as Canadians.
The honourable member for Fleetwood Port Kells.
Mr. Speaker, today I rise with great pride to announce this year I will be hosting annual Canada Day celebration in my riding of Fleetwood Port Kells. Canada Day is a special occasion when we come together as one to celebrate our history, our many achievements, and the joy of being Canadian. Mr. Speaker, my constituents can come and join me on Tuesday, July 1st from 1 to 5 p.m. at Chimney Heights Park. Fellow citizens, come join me for delicious food, exciting performance, and a day of Canadian pride. Canada Day is a moment to reflect on the greatness of our country and the values that unite us as Canadians. Together, let's celebrate Canada strong and free.
The honourable member for Beauce. Mr. Speaker, today I'd like to pay tribute to a young woman who has brought pride to the Beauce region. On May 10th, she was named Athlete of the Year at the 46th Beauce Sports Awards Gala. Hockey player Emmy Fecteau from Saint-Odilon. Emmy is an exceptional athlete in person. On the ice, she's led the Canada team to a gold medal at the World University Games. In 2023-24, Emmy was named captain of the Concordia University Stingers women's hockey team, which ended with a victory at the national championship. And since 2024-2025, she's been playing in the Professional World Women's Hockey League with the New York Sirens. Emmy has never put her studies aside, and she's combined high-level sports and academic success with the same passion and discipline, earning her a bachelor's degree in English. Emmy is an inspiration for all of our young people, Mr. Speaker, a true ambassador for the Beauce region. Proud, determined, and deeply human, congratulations, Emmy, for all you've accomplished. The Beauce region is truly proud of you.
The honourable member for Vancouver Centre.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank Vancouver Centre for putting their trust in me again for the 11th time. I will work hard to represent you. I speak to you now, though, not as an MP, but as a physician. I fear for the health of our children. Canada faces an outbreak of measles unseen in decades. We eliminated measles in 1998, now it's back. Measles is the most contagious of all viruses. It can live in the air for 48 hours. Measles is deadly. Hundreds of thousands of young children died in the 50s from measles, and those who survived faced permanent brain damage. I want to dispel some myths. Getting your kid to visit a friend with measles is risky. Measles is not chickenpox. Don't play Russian roulette with your child's life. Measles is preventable with MMR vaccines. So I beg you, parents, vaccinate your child. Women of childbearing age, get the vaccine before you become pregnant. Provinces do not allow unvaccinated kids to attend school. Surely we owe our children that.
The honourable member for Sarnia-Lambton-Bikejwanong.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the people of Sarnia-Lambton-Bikejwanong for putting their trust in me for a 4th term as their member of parliament. I want to thank my campaign manager, Ann Denman, and the many dedicated volunteers who worked to ensure a victory. Special shout-outs to McKenna, best volunteer coordinator and door knocker ever, and to Brandon, the brains behind getting out the vote, and to Bill, aka Murph, who made sure there were blue signs from one end of the riding to the other. I also want to thank my husband, Paul, who put up signs, door knocked, and was a major support for me, as he always is. Thanks also to my daughter, Jillian and Katie, for their love and support. I commit to being a strong voice for our issues in this riding and to be helpful to all constituents who need my assistance. These are challenging times, and I will be standing up for your civil liberties and the rights and freedoms we hold dear. I look forward to working with all sides of this House to build a better Canada for everyone.
The honourable member for Hull-Elmer. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This week, we celebrate National Public Service Week, the perfect opportunity to recognize the outstanding work of those who every day ensure our country runs smoothly. The public service of 2025 must take advantage of new technologies and AI that can help us build a more agile and efficient public service. Our government will give public servants the tools they need to continue to serve all Canadians with excellence. New technologies will reduce routine tasks so that public servants can focus on what matters, namely creativity, judgment, and problem solving. Mr. Speaker, to keep Canada strong, we need a strong public service. Happy National Public Service Week. Thank you.
The honourable member for Fort McMurray Cold Lake.
Despite having the gift of abundant natural resources, Canada is not meeting our potential. Canada has the 3rd largest oil reserves in the world, yet due to the lost Liberal decade and their anti-energy policies, we import nearly 500,000 barrels of oil a day. Liberals have preferred to support dirty dictator oil instead of our responsible Canadian energy. To many Canadians, Alberta represented a beacon of hope, prosperity, and an opportunity for a fresh start. But over the last decade, our economy has had the worst economic growth in the G7, and the hope is quickly fading. Canada cannot wait. We need Canadian energy projects, mines, pipelines, LNG, nuclear, and so much more. Canada needs breakthroughs. We need to scrap the anti-energy C-69, the shipping ban, the energy cap, and the industrial carbon tax, unlocking our natural resources. We have the people. We have the know-how. We have the energy. What we need is for this Liberal government to get out of the way and let Canada flourish.
The honourable member for South Shore St. Margaret's.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As a lifetime rural advocate for South Shore St. Margaret's, as a former educator and award-winning researcher on rural youth and development, I rise today to speak about the vital importance of rural economic development in Canada. Rural communities are not just picturesque backdrops. They are the lifeblood of this country. They are where our milk is produced, where our seafood on our plate is hauled in, and where the Christmas trees that brighten our home in December are grown. In fact, my own grandfather with Riverview Tree Farms was a grower in Lunenburg County, the Christmas tree capital of the world. My research has long been focused on ensuring rural people aren't left behind. Too often, rural needs are treated as afterthoughts. We must change that, because when we invest in rural infrastructure, innovation, and education, we invest in the sustainability of our food systems, our natural resources, and our local industries. Mr. Speaker, rural Canada doesn't just feed us, it grounds.
The honourable member for Windsor West.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today as the Conservative Member of Parliament for Windsor West. I am deeply humbled by the trust the good people of Windsor have placed in me to represent their voices in Ottawa. It is in that spirit that I pay tribute to a man who left an indelible mark on our community and our country's auto industry. That man was Buzz Hargrove, who passed away on June 15th. Buzz started in line at the Windsor Assembly Plant and later rose through the ranks to become the president of the Canadian Auto Workers Union, sir. He was a passionate advocate for working families, especially in Windsor, where the auto sector is not just a source of jobs, it is part of our identity. Buzz fought hard for wages, safer workplaces, and the security that comes with a good contract. His legacy is felt not only on the assembly lines, but in the strength and resilience of our communities. Rest in peace, Buzz. Your voice may have fallen silent, but your legacy will live on. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable.
The honourable member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, as world leaders gather at the G7 summit, we must speak with one voice on the issues of international human rights and the freedom of expression. The G7 comes at a critical time. The trial of Hong Kong political prisoner and freedom of speech defender Jimmy Lai is set to resume in mid-August. At the age of 77, he is diabetic and has already spent 4.5 years in detention. This is an arbitrary and illegal detention condemned by UN experts. Jimmy Lai's case is probably one of the most publicized in the world. In 2023, both the House and the Senate unanimously approved motions calling for Mr. Lai's immediate release. Parliamentarians from all parties believe that granting him honorary Canadian citizenship would put pressure on the Hong Kong government to release him. I am one of them, Mr. Speaker, and I sincerely hope that the members of this Parliament will join me in this call.
The honourable member for Dartmouth Cole Harbour.
This year marks the 100th anniversary of the Commissionaires, an extraordinary not-for-profit organization that has proudly served Canadians and supported our veterans for a full century.
Wow.
Founded in 1925 to provide meaningful employment for veterans returning from war, the Commissionaires have grown into one of the largest private security employers in the country, offering thousands of good jobs while continuing their original mission. From protecting federal buildings to supporting local communities, their work is vital, but their impact goes deeper. For countless former members of the Canadian Armed Forces and the RCMP, the Commissionaires offer not just employment, but dignity, purpose, and camaraderie after service. To the entire Commissionaires family, past and present, thank you for a century of service, loyalty, and care. Here's to the next 100 years.
The honourable member for Calgary Centre.
Mr. Speaker, in this short parliamentary session, we're rushing through legislation to temporarily, partially, perhaps, override the very laws that have defined this Liberal government's decade-long war on development. Let's name them. C-69, the No New Pipelines Act. C-48, the tanker ban. The oil and gas production cap. The industrial carbon tax. These laws have made Canada one of the slowest growing economies in the developed world. Now, as we host the G7, our allies are still asking, why can't Canada get anything built? The government's latest response, Bill C-5, a patchwork fix that hopes to no one notices the mess underneath. Selectively overriding laws is a fake approach. Here's the real solution. Repeal these anti-energy laws, approve energy projects, create jobs, build again. Let's stop pretending and start delivering stronger paychecks and a better future for Canadians.
Great statement.
The honourable member for Scarborough Centre, Don Valley East.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I recently had the opportunity to attend the community yard sale and annual bake sale held by the Church of Our Saviour, Don Mills, in my riding of Scarborough Centre, Don Valley East. Thank you, Liz Linz and Reverend Pierre Nyongere, for inviting me and everyone who helped to organize this fantastic event. I appreciated the warm welcome. It was wonderful to meet members of the community in this relaxed setting and also to see the talents of Don Valley East on display with the amazing art, homemade soups, donuts, and other baked goods. Whatever our faith, we all want the best for our family, our community, and our country. Events like this help to build strong communities, and I look forward to getting to know this part of my riding this summer. I hope everyone has a productive and fulfilling summer.
Hear, hear.
The honourable member for Peace River Westlock.
Mr. Speaker, it's never been more difficult for V8 truck owners in this country. After years of Liberal mismanagement, they've created hardships for farmers, families, and forestry workers in northern Alberta. Now this Liberal government plans to ban gas-powered vehicles and force Canadians to drive electric vehicles. Just one more example of Ottawa knows best. Well, Mr. Speaker, let me tell you what Albertans and rural Canadians know. The farmer hauling his livestock can't wait for hours to recharge during a trip. The hunter who needs to bring home his moose can't stick it in the back of a Prius. And when it's minus 40 out, oil and gas workers can't rely on EVs to haul heavy equipment needed to keep the heat on for the rest of the country. Even in Quebec, Mr. Speaker, the #1 selling vehicle is the gas-powered F-Series pickup. In a strong and free Canada, Canadians must have the choice to drive a vehicle that meets their needs at a price that they can afford. It's time to axe the ban on electric-powered vehicles, or gas-powered vehicles. Thank you.
The honourable member for Madawaska-Restigouche. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last month, during my very first official activity as the elected member for Madawaska-Restigouche, I had the pleasure of attending the Grandiose Communautaire Awards ceremony organized by the Regional Municipality of Grand Falls.
Individuals receive a Grandiose Award in recognition of their volunteer work. They generously give their time to organize activities and provide essential services to the community. Without these dedicated volunteers, many local initiatives simply wouldn't happen. Congratulations to Mariette Lafrance, Judith Thériault, and José Roussel. Your contributions are both valuable and essential.
3 other individuals were honored in the Ambassador category. This award recognizes individuals whose outstanding achievements have brought the Regional Municipality of Grand Falls to prominence at the provincial, national, or international level. Congratulations to Alain Lavoie, Morel Cassis, and Coco Caral Beliveau. You're a true source of pride for our region. And as
Madawaska-Restigouche is full of talent, and it's a big privilege to represent this beautiful riding.
The honourable member for Calgary Signal Hill.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberal government will soon ban the sale of gas and diesel-powered vehicles in our country. They want to force Canadians to buy electric vehicles. It doesn't matter that the Liberal plan will add $20,000 to the cost of a vehicle. It doesn't matter that Canada is one of the largest and coldest nations in the world. It doesn't matter that working Canadians rely on dependable vehicles to earn a living and provide for their families. It doesn't matter that we don't have the electrical generation or transmission capacity for their idea. And it doesn't matter that EV sales in Canada are on the decline, and both General Motors and Ford have called for scrapping the ban. Canadians demand the Prime Minister support farmers, tradespeople, energy field workers, and their families who require reliable transportation and must be allowed to choose their vehicle. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Argenteuil-La-Petite-Nation. Mr. Speaker, it is a great honour to recognize the outstanding contribution of a local artist and watercolorist, Jean-Yves Guindon of Saint-André-Avalin, in my riding of Argenteuil-La-Petite-Nation. With more than 40 years of a career painting over 5,000 paintings, Mr. Guindon is an iconic figure in Quebec art. With his unique perspective, he has captured the beauty of our landscapes, the soul of the built heritage, and the architecture of our region with remarkable precision and sensitivity. He has exhibited throughout Quebec, Canada, Europe, Toronto, and Brussels, but his inspiration remains deeply rooted in our territory. Beyond his artistic career, Mr. Guindon is also an example of commitment to some 30 organizations, foundations, and corporations in the region. And today, I am proud to present him with the King Charles III Medal in recognition of his work, his invaluable contribution to Canadian culture, and his community involvement. Thank you.
Oral questions, questions orales. The honourable member for Grand Prairie.
told you that the government had a plan to increase the cost of vehicles by over $20,000 and kill 40,000 high-paying Canadian jobs. Well, that's exactly what these Liberals are doing with their mandate to eliminate the gas-powered vehicle starting to take effect next year. Workers and families across Canada, especially in rural and northern communities, can't afford this dangerous Liberal experiment. It's simple, Mr. Speaker. Canadians don't want this shoved down their throat. Tonight, will the Liberals vote to immediately end their radical ban on gas-powered vehicles immediately?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change.
Mr. Speaker, leave it to the Conservatives to hit one of the most major industries that we have in our country exactly at the same time as it's getting hit by unjustified tariffs from the United States. We stand with our auto workers. We've been investing in our auto industry, and we will keep making sure that we have strong union jobs in our autos.
The Honourable Member for Grand Prairie.
That's completely ridiculous because a report out today projects 50,000 job losses in the auto sector because of trade uncertainty. But rather than providing the auto sector with any kind of certainty, these Liberals are doubling down on their risky and dangerous EV mandate. Ford and GM are pleading with the government to end the insanity. Industry projects that the Liberal ban on the gas-powered engine will cost an additional 40,000 high-paying Canadian jobs. The combination of the Liberals' inability to get a deal on tariffs and their self-imposed radical EV mandate will destroy Canada's auto sector. So will the Liberals join?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, we will take no lessons from the Conservatives. We will take no lessons from these guys, Mr. Speaker. Under our government, we have seen record investment in the auto sector, Mr. Speaker. Even Bloomberg ranked Canada first in the world for the EV supply chain, Mr. Speaker. We should all be celebrating. We're going to fight for the industry. We're going to fight for our workers. We're going to fight for Canada strong, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Lethbridge.
And on this side of the House, we will take no lessons for them. We will stand up for Canadians' freedom of choice.
Right.
Choice to drive the vehicle that suits their needs. Choice to drive the vehicle that they need for their family. That's what this side of the House will stand for. We're talking.
Excuse me, Honourable Member. I missed. If the member could, I couldn't hear anything. If the member could back up just a little bit, the member could start over. Could you start over? Could the member start over? More or less, wherever you want to start from. I couldn't hear. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. You gotta bring the House under control.
The Honourable Member has the floor. Would she like to ask a question?
I appreciate that. Mr. Speaker, these Liberals over here do not believe in the freedom of choice that Canadians should have when it comes to the vehicle that they drive. Right now, they have a mandate in place that makes it so that Canadians will have to buy EVs. They will have to. But that does not fit the needs of Canadian families. And especially at this time when Canadian families are struggling to make ends meet, they cannot afford the additional $20,000 that this mandate will add to their bill when they go to purchase a new car. Right now, this government has an option, and that is to vote with Conservatives to relinquish their ban on gas-powered vehicles. Will they?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment.
Mr. Speaker, what I will do is stand up for our auto workers all across our country. We'll stand up for a strong auto industry. I will stand up to make sure that we're climate competitive and going where the world is moving, which if they actually looked at studies, globally, EV sales are up. If the members opposite actually care about making sure that we are standing up for our auto workers, I hope that they will stand up with us to make sure that we are protecting the industry.
Hear, hear. The Honourable Member for Lethbridge.
If you're going to stand up for auto workers, if the Liberal government is truly going to stand with auto workers, then stop making the very vehicles that they're producing illegal.
Hear, hear.
In my community of Lethbridge, a farmer cannot drive an EV to go pick up seed or drive an EV to go harvest their crop.
10 seconds.
Families in my community need choice when it comes to the vehicle that they will drive. Will the Liberals stand with Canadians and relinquish their ban on gas-powered cars?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change.
Mr. Speaker, maybe just as a point of clarification about the regulation that they're talking about, which is not as they describe, let us be clear that there is no ban on gas-powered vehicles. They can read the regulation. So if we want to be clear, what we are doing is making sure that EVs are available to Canadians. 546,000 Canadians accessed our rebate to be able to purchase the vehicles because they wanted them.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, Canadians don't realize it yet, but very soon, because of this Liberal government, the cost of gas-powered vehicles is going to go up by $20,000 because this government wants to force everyone to buy electric. Banning gas-powered vehicles in Quebec, Mr. Speaker, that means no more snowmobiles, no more ATVs, no more F-150s, and vehicles will cost more and more. Will this Liberal Prime Minister, whose motorcade probably burns more gas than all the ATVs in the eastern townships put together, give Canadians the freedom to choose and vote in favour of our motion to cancel the ban on gas-powered vehicles? The Honourable Finance Minister. Mr. Speaker, my colleague should be delighted that thanks to our government, we have brought Quebec into the auto industry. We've made record investments in the sector. And the member will see what that looks like. We're building the industry of the future in Quebec and Ontario and all across the country. We've always fought for communities, whether it's Brampton, Oshawa, or in Quebec. We are building a strong Canada. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Mr. Speaker, this is a cold country. It's a northern country. It gets cold in Quebec. According to the CAA, cold weather cuts a car's battery's lifespan by 40%. Banning gas-powered vehicles in Canada is unrealistic and will cost Canadians at least 38,000 jobs. This government wants to punish Quebecers who choose a gas-powered vehicle by imposing a tax of $20,000 per vehicle. Why do the Liberals want to punish Quebecers in rural areas? Will they vote in favour of our motion tonight and cancel the ban on gas-powered vehicles and leave Quebecers the freedom to choose what kind of vehicle they want? The Honourable Environment Minister. Mr. Speaker, perhaps we shouldn't be surprised that the Conservatives are going to say that this is not a strong industry when it's such an important industry in our country. So we will always stand with workers in the auto industry. And in Quebec, it should be known that about 25% of the new vehicles sold in Quebec are electric. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is using the distraction of the G7 to ram through Bill C-5 without debate, a power grab against Quebec and Indigenous people. But fortunately, some of us are on the lookout. Yesterday, the AFN threatened to take court action if C5s passed without adequate consultation with Indigenous peoples. Also yesterday, a former Liberal minister voted against his own caucus, saying the Liberals' approach would even embarrass Stephen Harper. Will the Liberals take the time to answer questions on C5 instead of forcing it down Parliament's throat?
The Honourable Minister of Nordic and Arctic Affairs.
Monsieur Président, le gouvernement fédéral.
Mr. Speaker, the federal government will determine whether a major project is in the national interest after consulting the provinces, territories, and Indigenous peoples. The projects will be chosen and will be subject to exhaustive consultation with Indigenous people. For all projects, the Crown, including the provinces and the territories, have to consult First Nations, and that's what this government will do.
No.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, the member for Beaches East York is surely not the only Liberal uncomfortable with C5. There are others who didn't get into politics to force pipelines on Quebec without its consent and without a credible environmental assessment. There are others who didn't get into politics to undo reconciliation by forcing energy projects on Indigenous peoples. There are still other Liberals who didn't get into politics to copy Pierre Poilievre's ideas and use closure to ram them through with help from the Conservatives. Will these Liberals ask the Prime Minister to let Parliament do its work instead of imposing C5? The Honourable Government House Leader. Parliament is doing its job, Mr. Speaker. We are a government that was elected on the slogan of "It's time to build in Canada." We're doing that with respect. We, of course, are speeding projects up, those of national importance, while at the same time respecting jurisdictions and Indigenous rights. But we're doing that, Mr. Speaker, because Canada has to take charge to create opportunities to build a strong economy. It is time to build, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Repentigny. Mr. Speaker, Bill C5 does more than circumvent environmental assessments. It allows oil companies to violate 13 laws and 7 regulations, most of them environmental. With C5, there will no longer be any need to comply with the Environmental Protection Act, the Species at Risk Act, the Fisheries Act, the Marine Mammal Regulations, and many more. What's worse, Section 21 specifies that Ottawa can suspend any other law by order in Council. Just like Donald Trump. Is there even one law that the Liberals are not prepared to violate on behalf of the oil companies? The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change. Mr. Speaker, Canadians and Quebecers asked us to build a strong economy. They called on us to embark on projects of national importance. That's what we're doing, but we're doing it while at the same time protecting the environment. And I hope that the Bloc will consider supporting us on this bill.
A member for Oxford.
Mr. Speaker, Oxford is home to thousands of hard-working auto workers and spin-off jobs that fuel our economy. A new report warns that the unjustified U.S. tariffs on the auto sector could kill 50,000 jobs. Yeah. Our families are worried, our workers are terrified, and the layoffs have already started. But this Prime Minister claimed to be the man with a plan. But as we don't get a deal done, we are suffering right across the board. The Prime Minister talks a big game, but when it comes to fighting for auto workers, he is missing from action. Can the Liberals tell us how many auto sector jobs will be lost because they failed to get a deal?
Honorable Ministre des Finances.
Mr. Speaker, it's incumbent on every member in the South to fight for auto sector, Mr. Speaker. We know that they are the best worker in the world. We know that they are in our communities across the country. We know that we have been working with them hand in hand at every time, Mr. Speaker. We're facing a trade war from our closest neighbor, Mr. Speaker, but one thing is true. We're going to fight for our workers. We're going to fight for our industry. We're going to fight for Canada. Mr. Speaker, we're the true North, strong and free, and we'll fight for our workers.
The Honourable Member for Niagara Falls, Niagara-on-the-Lake.
Speaker, in May, GM announced a record-setting $888 million investment in one of our local V8 engine plants. Problem is, they're investing it in Tonawanda, New York, just miles away from our very own V8 engine plant in St. Catharines. Workers in Niagara are worried about their future, and now a new report says that the unjustified U.S. tariffs could kill over 50,000 auto sector jobs in Canada. Will the Liberals admit their failure to get a deal with the U.S. threatens to kill thousands of good-paying auto sector jobs in southern Ontario?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Industry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We're in this trade war against these unjust and illegal tariffs. That's what we're fighting every day. That's what the Prime Minister is taking on in Kananaskis. And we are fighting for the workers and their investments. And let's just remember, on a day where we've just remembered Buzz Hargrove in this House and what he would be fighting for, let's fight together for those things that will keep us together, strong, fighting for those investments, fighting for those workers. I invite the members opposite to join us in that fight.
The Honourable Member for Windsor-Tecumseh Lakeshore.
Mr. Speaker, a new report says that the U.S. tariffs on Canada's auto sector could kill 50,000 jobs. The Prime Minister promised elbows up with the U.S., but it's been elbows down. He said he was the man with the plan, but he's been unable to get a deal, directly threatening the jobs of Canadian auto workers. We need real solutions for Canadians. Can the Liberal government tell us how many jobs will be lost in the auto sector because of their failure to get a deal?
The Honourable Minister of Transport and Internal Trade.
Mr. Speaker, our government will always stand up for our auto sector. We will always stand up for our auto workers.
That's right.
That is what we were elected to do, to stand for Canada, to fight for Canada. That is what the Prime Minister is doing this week in Kananaskis. And I do know that Canadians recognize, and I hope all members of this House will recognize, you can't get a good deal for Canada if you negotiate in public.
Hear, hear, hear.
The Honourable Member for Windsor West.
Mr. Speaker, in Windsor, we build cars. It's what feeds our families and pays our mortgages. But now, 50,000 Canadian auto jobs are at risk because this Prime Minister couldn't get a deal with the United States. He promised to be elbows up, but instead, it's elbows down. In Windsor, auto workers and suppliers are very concerned, and they deserve answers. And if Buzz was here today, he'd be asking how many jobs will be lost because this Liberal government failed to stand up for Windsor and the Canadian auto sector, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Minister of Transport and Internal Trade.
Mr. Speaker, this is a frightening time for our auto workers. It's a frightening time for all Canadians. And that is why it is so important for Canadians to hear all of us say that our government was elected to stand for Canada, our government was elected to fight for Canada, and that, Mr. Speaker, is what we shall surely do. It is what we are doing. And I know, Mr. Speaker, Canadians are smart. They know you can't get a good deal if you negotiate in public.
The Honourable Member for North Island, Powell River.
Mr. Speaker, after 10 years of Liberal government, Canadians are facing a cost of living crisis, and now Liberals are proposing to ban all gas-powered vehicles, including pickup trucks and SUVs, in just 10 years, a policy that will cost 38,000 Canadian jobs and drive up the price of new vehicles by $20,000 each. Conservatives believe that Canadians who drive their kids to school or to sports or themselves to work should have the freedom to choose the vehicle that's right for them and their families at a price that they can afford. Why does this Liberal government apparently disagree?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change.
Mr. Speaker, once again, it is so shocking in a moment when our auto industry is under fire from the unjustified tariff from the United States, that we have the Conservatives talking down a growing industry right in our country. We are going to stand up for our auto workers, we're going to support our auto workers, and we're going to make sure that Canadians have access to a growing area for vehicles. It's actually growing globally. We're going to make sure that Canadians have access to zero-emission vehicles.
The Honourable Member for Brandon Souris.
The Liberal government is banning gas-powered vehicles and forcing Canadians to buy electric. This will add $20,000 on top of the average $66,000 price of buying a car, as if they need to be more expensive in this country. This will jack up prices on Canadians and gut hundreds of energy sector jobs in Western Manitoba. Canadians do not want to be forced to drive EVs. With manufacturers like GM and Ford calling for its removal, will the Liberals admit their mistake and vote in favour of our Conservative motion to give Canadians back choice in what they drive later today?
L'Honorable Ministre des Finances.
Mr. Speaker, what we are prepared to admit is that we landed generational investment in this country, Mr. Speaker. You have seen companies of the like of Volkswagen choosing Canada, Mr. Speaker. You have seen companies like Honda choosing Canada, Mr. Speaker. You have seen companies like Stellantis choosing Canada, Mr. Speaker. And the reason why? Because we have the best worker in the world, Mr. Speaker. Because we have a growing industry. Because they know that Canada is the land of the future, Mr. Speaker. They should rally with us. Cheer our workers, cheer our industry, and let's cheer Canada together.
The Honourable Member for Montmorency-Charlevoix. Mr. Speaker, in my riding, we need our vehicles. We need them to take kids to school, to work on our farms, or even to explore our vast territory. We need our ATVs and our skidoos. Gas is not the only means, but it's efficient and effective, and it works everywhere. Instead of allowing us to take charge and develop and grow our economy, will the Prime Minister scrap this bill to ban gas-powered vehicles and allow Canadians free choice? The Honourable Minister of the Environment. Mr. Speaker, to start with, we're not banning skidoos. We need to talk about the facts here. In Quebec, there are already regulations enacted by the provincial government of Quebec to ensure that Quebecers have access to zero emissions vehicles. So if he wants to talk about that, he should look at the regulations in his own province first, because Quebecers are buying. 25% of new vehicle purchases in Quebec are EVs. The Honourable Member for Pierre Boucher, Les Patriotes Verchères. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister said he would never force energy projects on Quebec or any province without its consent. Unfortunately, C5 says the opposite. It allows Ottawa to decide everything all by itself by order in council, and then hold bogus consultations once a project has already been approved. The Bloc thought this must be a mistake, so we're proposing an amendment that's consistent with what the Prime Minister said. It would require him to get the approval of Quebec and the provinces before going ahead. Will the Prime Minister support that? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, the bill in question does respect provincial jurisdiction, it does respect Aboriginal rights, and it supports the regulatory processes that are already in place, but it seeks to accelerate the approval of projects in the national interest that will create opportunities, create jobs, create infrastructure all across the country. And if you don't believe me, Mr. Speaker, go ask François Legault or the Quebec government. They support this bill. The Honourable Member for Pierre Boucher, Les Patriotes Verchères. C5 would allow Ottawa to force pipelines on Quebec, the provinces, and First Nations without their consent. It allows 13 laws to be violated and others to be added by order in council. C5 establishes criteria for projects of national interest, all of which can also be bypassed. It's no joke. C5 even allows the minister to bypass C5. That's why the Bloc's proposing amendments. Without our amendments, C5 is nothing more than a license to run roughshod over Quebecers. Will the Liberals support us? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, not only does the Quebec government support this bill, Quebecers support this bill. We just saw there was an election where 44 Liberals were elected all across Quebec. Why? Because Quebecers know. Quebecers are broad-minded, and they can see that we need to build. We need major projects. We need to create good opportunities for our kids and our grandkids. It allows for dreams, and it allows to build Quebec, Mr. Speaker.
Calgary, Midnapore.
After telling Canadians to live in shipping containers, will the housing minister go home to his $2 million penthouse in Vancouver, his 11 acres in Tofino, or his $5.6 million property in Squamish? This hypocritical minister is telling young Canadians stuck in their parents' basement that housing prices don't need to come down. Does he not see how arrogant and condescending that sounds from atop his Vancouver penthouse? Yeah.
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I honestly don't know where honourable colleagues across the aisle are going with this questioning. The minister is obviously in full compliance with the strictest ethics code known of in the Western world. It applies to all of us. It applies to that minister. He will be in full compliance with that.
The honourable member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, I would encourage the minister to come down from his penthouse and answer the questions himself rather than relying on the House Leader. He has a $10 million real estate portfolio that includes multiple properties and a beautiful Vancouver penthouse. I'm sure it's very nice. No wonder then that his first act as housing minister was to announce that he doesn't want housing prices to go down. No wonder. Why is this minister putting his personal portfolio ahead of his cabinet portfolio and abandoning young people who are stuck without jobs and still living with their parents?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, it must be getting late into the month because the level of innuendo coming from the other side of this House is quite frankly appalling. Obviously, this minister is in compliance with all of the disclosure obligations and is going to continue complying with the strictest ethics code in the world. And at the same time, he will obviously be creating many hundreds of thousands of housing opportunities for young Canadians, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, I do want to be generous today and offer the housing minister one more opportunity to respond. The issue here is that the minister, who's supposed to be solving the Liberal housing crisis, actually has a personal financial interest in seeing that crisis continue. I think to most Canadians that would seem to be a little bit of a problem. How can we expect the penthouse minister to actually solve the Liberal housing crisis while the same housing crisis continues to make him even richer?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Let me take one more opportunity to denounce this juvenile, amateurish invective coming from the other side of the House that impugns the motives of upstanding people who present themselves for public office, who work tirelessly to create opportunities for Canadians. This minister has a large mandate. He will create hundreds of thousands of housing units for Canadians. He will continue that work, and of course he will comply with all the rules, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Bellechasse, Les Etchemins, Lévis. With July 1st coming up, Quebecers are concerned. Many Quebecers haven't been able to find a new home before moving day because it's too expensive. But the minister has said that housing prices don't need to go down. Well, Mr. Speaker, obviously, he's got a huge real estate portfolio, so it's obviously in his interest to keep prices high. But because he's refusing to answer the question, he's creating a culture of mistrust. Why is the Prime Minister allowing a millionaire real estate holder decide what Quebecers, what access Quebecers will have to housing? Mr. Speaker, the member across the way was a minister in a government. She knows better than this. I'm surprised to hear such low rhetoric in this House, which impugns the motivations of ministers who are working very hard. A minister who's working hard to create housing opportunities for Quebecers. We are working tirelessly. This minister is working tirelessly with Quebec to create housing opportunities, and he will comply with all ethics rules, and this member knows better. The honourable member for Bellechasse, Les Etchemins, Lévis. Well, I'll tell you what's scandalous, Mr. Speaker. It's that there's a minister who is letting young Quebecers go back to live in their parents' basements because they don't have any money to pay for housing. That's what's scandalous here, Mr. Speaker. Stand up and say how you are going to fix the housing crisis. Speak not as a millionaire, but as a member of this House. The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, we are getting close to the end of this parliamentary session. It's been intense. I know that we had an election not too long ago, but honestly, this is dishonourable for this member to speak this way to a member who has run for public office to do good for his community, to do good work for his country. He is working hand in hand with the government of Quebec to create programs and opportunities for housing for young Quebecers, and he'll continue to do that while respecting all ethics codes. This member knows better, and honestly, these questions dishonor her.
Member for Brampton South.
Mr. Speaker, public safety is a key priority in my community of Brampton South. Could the Minister of Justice and Attorney General of Canada share with my community and Canadians what is the government's plan to toughen the criminal code to make our communities safer for everyone? Great question.
Honourable Minister of Justice and Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my honourable colleague for her question and for her work advancing important criminal reforms to keep communities safe. In the recent federal election, we were elected on a mandate to help give law enforcement the tools they need to keep communities safe and to strengthen the criminal code. Specifically, we will be advancing legislative reforms to strengthen the bail system when it comes to violent crimes involving home invasion, drug trafficking, and auto theft, and stiffer penalties for organized crime and violent crime. Mr. Speaker, I look forward to working with my colleague representing the good people of Brampton South and members of Parliament from every community in this country to help keep Canadians safe.
The Honourable Member for Mission Matsqui Abbotsford.
Mr. Speaker, extortion is up 357%. Take, for example, the Lehmans in Mission. Last year, they lost $300,000 to this heinous crime. While their lives were completely destabilized, the criminal never served a day in jail, got 9 months house arrest and probation. The Liberals rejected our common sense extortion bill in the last Parliament that would reinstate mandatory minimums. Why won't they stand with Canadians and reverse their disastrous policies?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister of Justice and Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, when dangerous people commit violent crimes, it's important that they face serious criminal penalties. Mr. Speaker, I would point out to the honourable member that extortion is illegal in this country and its perpetrators must be apprehended and punished in accordance with the criminal code. When he looks at mandatory minimum penalties, he'll see that repeat violent offences involving firearms have a mandatory minimum penalty of 7 years and a maximum penalty of life imprisonment. The criminal code is a serious document. It will treat serious criminals very seriously, and I look forward to working with members of the Conservative Party to give law enforcement the tools they need, not only to punish criminals, but to prevent crime in the first place.
The Honourable Member for Mission Matsqui Abbotsford.
Mr. Speaker, extortion is obviously illegal, but it was this minister and the Liberal government that removed mandatory sentences for these dangerous crimes. The sad reality is that the Lehmans will probably never get their money back. And not only were they traumatized by this crime, they were forced to remove the $300,000 from their business account. And now that money is subject to tax with the CRA. When will the Liberals get serious and change the laws that protect Canadians and put the Lehmans first, not the criminal?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, it is beyond reprehensible for a member of the House of Commons to suggest that one party or another puts criminals ahead of victims. We are going to advance important reforms to strengthen sentencing. We are going to take extortion seriously to ensure that people who suffer the consequences of these crimes see recourse through the criminal justice system. But importantly, Mr. Speaker, it can't only be about stiffening penalties. It also needs to be about investing in frontline officers who can help keep communities safe to prevent crime in the first place. As we advance these important reforms, I hope we can, for once, gain the support of the Conservative Party to help keep communities safe.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton South East.
Mr. Speaker, incidents of extortion are increasing at a rampant speed, and the Liberal government doesn't seem to be serious about it. In Edmonton, firebombs are being thrown at businesses and bullets are being fired at houses demanding for extortion money. Extortion is up by 357%. Liberals voted down the common sense Bill C-381, enforcing a 3-year mandatory minimum penalty and a 4-year penalty for extortion involving non-restricted firearms, which was repealed by the Liberals in Bill C-5. Will the Liberals finally adopt the Conservative plan to crack down on violent extortion?
Yeah. The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, we will hold extortionists accountable. Just yesterday, I was at a big announcement with Peel Regional Police where 18 extortionists were caught involved in a criminal organization. This is a big accomplishment.
Well done.
And we are striking them where it counts. Criminals will be investigated, they will be charged, they will be sentenced. Mr. Speaker, extortion carries a maximum sentence of life in prison, a minimum sentence when done with a firearm of 5 years, and with
The Honourable Member for Fundy Royal.
Mr. Speaker, what the
minister failed to mention is thanks to 10 years of Liberal inaction on crime, half of those individuals, half of those 18, were out on bail when they were arrested. And thanks to the good work of the Peel Regional Police, half of them were charged for violent crimes like arson and extortion. Incredibly, Mr. Speaker, half of those individuals are already out on the street today. It used to be in Canada that if you were charged with extortion, fraud, drive-by shootings, or arson, then you would go to jail. But thanks to the Liberal soft on crime bill C5 and easy bail laws, these criminals are free.
The Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, I will agree with the member that yesterday was a big day. Project Outsource was a big win for Canada. It was a big win for Peel Region. And I want to thank the officers of Peel Regional Police, Halton, York, the RCMP, everyone that was involved in this investigation. Mr. Speaker, when it comes to bail, the law says that people who are a risk to public safety or a flight should not be given bail. Mr. Speaker, it is important that the provinces who administer justice also make sure that the criminal courts under the provincial jurisdiction function as they should.
The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, Canada is facing a wave of extortion in restaurants and bars, and Montreal and Laval are being affected. Over the last year, there have been fires and attacks with firearms. There are people who are committing crimes from prison using their cell phones right now. Will the Minister of Public Safety ask his colleague, the Minister of Justice, to change the laws to bring justice back to Canada?
Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, my honourable colleague raises extortion with a firearm. When repeat violent criminals commit offences of this nature, they face a mandatory minimum of 7 years and a maximum of life imprisonment. Mr. Speaker, when we see this kind of behaviour, we need not only to reform criminal laws to punish wrongdoers on the back end of such conduct, but we need to invest in our frontline officers who are keeping communities safe. As part of the recent election campaign, Canadians have elected a new Liberal government to make these precise investments, and I look forward to implementing them. I hope only Conservative members will join us.
The Honourable Member for Brantford, Brant South, Six Nations.
Mr. Speaker, a so-called safe injection site backed by this Liberal government became the scene of a broad daylight drug shootout. A mother walking by was killed, yet the staff member at the site who helped the shooters escape, shockingly, won't serve a single day behind bars. Wow. This wasn't about harm reduction. It was chaos, violence, and death in a residential neighborhood. Will this Liberal government finally accept responsibility for these sites becoming crime magnets and ending the dangerous policies putting Canadians at risk?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The drug crisis across Canada and North America has impacted many communities, and there isn't a community that we represent that hasn't gone through challenges. With respect to the matter in question, Mr. Speaker, it is something that was made by an independent adjudicator, and I won't be able to comment on that.
The Honourable Member for Brantford, Brant South, Six Nations.
After a decade of this Liberal government, serious violent crime has soared, but so has leniency. A mother is dead, and the so-called harm reduction worker who helped the accused killer gets to serve her sentence from home and to enjoy her gym membership. Wow. What kind of justice system does the Prime Minister believe in? One that protects victims or one that rewards criminals? And to correct what the Prime Minister had to say, there is no mandatory minimum for extortion because she and her government voted in favor of C5. Right. Will the Liberals finally take responsibility for their soft on crime agenda?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, this new government was given a strong mandate from Canadians to keep our communities safe, and we will do exactly exactly that. We're committed to hiring 1,000 new CBSA officers, 1,000 more RCMP personnel to secure our borders, to keep our streets safe. We'll make it tougher for violent criminals to get bail and impose stricter sentences for repeat violent offenders. Mr. Speaker, this government is acting quickly. We brought in C2 immediately to provide policing with the tools necessary to catch.
The honourable member for Vaughan Woodbridge.
Mr. Speaker, extortion is up 357% across Canada. In the GTA, 18 suspects were arrested in a major extortion bust. Firearms, ammunition, and $4.2 million seized in assets. And get this, half of the suspects were already released on bail. Just last week, York Region Police Chief called for urgent bail reform. The Liberals voted against a Conservative bill to crack down on extortion and reintroduce mandatory minimums. Will the Prime Minister stop siding with criminals and support our plan to keep violent criminals in jail?
Great question. The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, once again, yesterday was a good day. Project Outsource was a big bust, and it's why our government is committed to introducing new legislation that will toughen bail rules for serious offenses and ensure that sentences match the severity of crimes. Mr. Speaker, we're working hard to make sure law enforcement has the tools it needs to investigate, to catch, to prosecute, and to put criminals behind bars.
Hear, hear. The honourable member for York Centre.
Speaker, after a decade of this Liberal government, crime in Toronto is out of control. Last night in North York, what began as an armed carjacking at the shops of Don Mills turned into a police pursuit and a man jumping off the Gardiner Expressway. The Liberals turned Toronto into Grand Theft Auto real-life edition. Liberal Bill C5 and C75 let criminals out on bail instead of locking them up and keeping us safe. So I ask, Speaker, when will the Liberals repeal their soft on bail regime and start protecting Canadians from violent criminals?
Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, this new government is committed to working collaboratively with the provinces to ensure that our bail system works. Mr. Speaker, bail is administered by the provinces through provincial judges in provincial courts and by Crown provincial prosecutors. Mr. Speaker, they too should be given the resources and the tools that are needed, and they should have the space that is necessary to hold these criminals accountable.
The honourable member for Mont-Saint-Bruno-L'Acadie. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. One of the main reasons why I got into politics is because I love meeting with people, no matter where they come from or what their story is. The great diversity of Quebec and in my riding of Mont-Saint-Bruno-L'Acadie reminds me every day that our differences make Canada stronger. I'm looking forward to participating in community life in my riding this summer. Can the Minister of Identity and Canadian Culture and the Minister responsible for official languages please tell us what major national events will take place this summer and how these events will bring Canadians together? The Honourable Minister of Canadian Identity and Culture. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank my colleague from Mont-Saint-Bruno-Acadie for his work with his community. Thanks to the Celebrate Canada program, our government is supporting over 1,500 events around the country to mark, among other things, National Indigenous Peoples Day, La Saint-Jean-Baptiste, Multiculturalism Day, Canada Day, and the national holiday of Acadie. Concerts, cultural festivals, community gatherings, so many opportunities to celebrate our diversity and to strengthen that which unites us from coast to coast to coast.
Honourable member for Middlesex.
Mr. Speaker, a new report confirms what Canadians already knew. The Liberal housing crisis isn't just locking generations out of home ownership, it's dragging down our whole economy. Teachers are commuting hours just to afford rent. Tradespeople are building homes that they are priced out of owning. And permitting in London is taking over 6 months, even just for a small renovation. Now the Liberals' own data shows collapsing housing starts, 72% in London. Ooh. So after nearly a decade in power, how does this government defend doubling housing costs and tanking our economy?
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And
let's support him. Let's go.
Canadians elected this new government to double construction.
That's right.
And you
to make
will,
it more
Gregor.
affordable across the country, and that's what we're going to deliver.
That's right.
We're focused on delivering tax breaks on GST and income tax. We're focused
And you've
on
done it.
lowering development costs. We're focused on delivering for Canadians on affordability across housing, and we expect the members opposite to support that.
The honourable member for Middlesex, London.
Canadians can't live in press releases and recycled talking points. They need homes. London received $74 million from the Liberals' Housing Accelerator Fund. And what did we get? A staggering 72% drop in housing starts and zero transparency. Meanwhile, this government is under fire for funneling public dollars to insiders and mismanaging every major project. So when will the Liberals admit their signature housing plan is a flop and stop using taxpayer money to cover up their failure with photo ops?
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The good news is that housing starts across Canada are up this year to almost
That's
record
right.
levels.
Good work.
We are seeing challenges in Ontario. We're working with our partners in Ontario to turn that around. But across Canada, we're building, and we're going to build more.
The Honourable Member for Richmond Centre, Marpole.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals' Housing Agents May report confirms that housing starts in Vancouver dropped 10.4% from last year, despite the city receiving $115 million from the Housing Accelerator Fund. In Richmond, housing projects are stalled, and families are facing record-high prices. When will this Liberal government admit its housing plan is failing and that Canadians are paying the cost for their incompetence?
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Canadians made a very clear choice in April to elect a government that's focused on delivering housing. And we will do that, Mr. Speaker. And the Housing Accelerator Fund has been extraordinarily well supported by over 200 communities across Canada.
That's right.
So if the members opposite don't believe in the program, you can talk to your mayors and councillors, continue to throw them under the bus. This government is going to work in that partnership, and we're going to deliver housing with communities across Canada.
Very good, Gregor.
The Honourable Member for Burnaby Central.
Mr. Speaker, today leaders from around the world are meeting at the G7 summit in Alberta to tackle some of the most complex challenges. I understand that the Prime Minister met with President Zelensky today to understand what Ukraine needs to secure its victory. Can the Minister of National Defense please update this House on the discussion Canada is having regarding Ukraine at the G7 today?
Good question.
The Honourable Minister of Defence, of National Defence.
I'd like to thank the member for Burnaby Central for his dedication. Canada's support for Ukraine in the face of Russia's illegal and unjustified war remains steadfast. Earlier today at the G7 summit, the Prime Minister announced $2 billion in new military support to aid Ukraine in its time of need. This includes funding for drones, for ammunition, and for armored vehicles. We're also providing over $2.3 billion to help Ukraine rebuild its infrastructure and its public systems, Mr. Speaker. Make no mistake, Canada will stand with Ukraine until victory.
The Honourable Member for Hamilton East, Stony Creek.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals' own May 2025 housing data is in, and it's atrocious. The Liberal Housing Accelerator Fund was put into place to accelerate housing. It's done the opposite. For example, the Housing Accelerator Fund gave $93.5 million to Hamilton, but housing starts are down by 50.7%. Why would this so-called new Liberal government continue its old, failed programs?
Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Mr. Speaker, as the member states, there are challenges in Ontario, and we're working with our partners in Ontario to turn that around. Across Canada, housing starts are up this year. Right. Housing starts that are near record levels of almost 280,000 starts this year is the trajectory we are on. We need to build on that. We're shooting for 500,000 units, and we're going to work with our partners provincially and locally to deliver that.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Strathcona.
Speaker, it's
been 4 years since we were promised new selenium regulations to protect Canada's water and fish from devastating impacts of coal mining. Now, with the Conservatives and the Liberals in a bromance on C5, I'm wondering whether or not the minister will be bringing these protections forward. Now that they've decided to ignore workers' rights, environmental laws, and Indigenous rights, these protections and regulations are more important than ever. When will we see these long-awaited, long-promised regulations to stop foreign coal companies from destroying our beloved Rocky Mountains?
The Honourable Minister of Transport and Internal Trade.
Mr. Speaker, I'm really glad to get that question because it is so important for us to support Canada's beloved Rockies. There is a consensus among Albertans of all political stripes that we need to protect this precious resource. We need to protect our precious national parks. I want to assure the member opposite that our government will work closely with her and all members of this House to ensure that we do that. Ranchers believe in it, environmentalists believe in it, hikers believe in it. Our government stands with them.
The Honourable Member for Saanich Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Not disputing the need for Canada to fortify defences and defence spending. The arbitrary 2% of our GNI for NATO stands in stark contrast to another goal long forgotten, 0.7% of GNI for development assistance. Poverty and failed states fuel terrorism and warlords and fuel wars. Now that we're investing in the war machine, will this government commit to up our investment to wage peace in this country?
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Secretary of State for International Development.
Mr. Speaker, our new government commits to keeping our commitments to humanitarian aid, global development on the sustainable level. Despite other countries cutting back, our country, our great government of Canada, will continue to help those that are much in need, those that have been displaced, and those that need the help that they need in times of dire straits. Thank you.
For citizens across the country, Canadian Forces Day is an opportunity to recognize the sacrifices made by military personnel on our behalf.
Draw the attention of members to the presence in the gallery of 6 members of the Canadian Forces who are taking part in Canadian Armed Forces Day today. Royal Canadian Air Force Sergeant Brittany Shulga, Royal Canadian Navy Master Sailor Tyler Grayson Ferrer, Canadian Army Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Glenn Brownridge, du Bureau de Ville.
From the Office of the Deputy Chief of Staff of Defense, Sergeant Guillaume Thibault, Chief of Military Personnel Sergeant Jean-Charles Francourt,
Krista Rose Brake. So that concludes this part of the day, and we'll give members a moment to leave quietly to where they have to be, and quickly, of course. Excuse me, I interrupted. President of the Treasury Board. Apparently the mic was not on. Is that okay? We'll give it another second, and then we'll start over if the President of the Treasury Board does not mind. Again, colleagues, I would remind you to leave quietly and quickly, so we can go on with the business of the day. The President of the Treasury Board, the Honourable President of the Treasury
Board.
Thank
you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's an honor to table in both official languages on behalf of 92 departments and agencies the departmental plans for 2025-2026. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Battle River Crowfoot